We have with us Mr. Kaushik Khona. He's the CEO of GO First Airlines, and let's go across and try and understand with him as to what's happening with the airlines. Mr. Kaushik, hi, thank you so much for making time and speaking with us. This is Anisha this side. Well, we were reading a lot of brokerage notes this morning, and the biggest question they were asking is the fact, will GO First fly again? What's your take on that? And also the street was caught a bit surprised, given the fact there was fund infusion made by the promoters just 10-15 days ago. What changed materially in the last 15 days?
First of all, thanks for your time. Thanks for the opportunity to explain what the event happened. I believe, and that's the reason why we have filed application under Section 10, is that Go First has a huge potential to revive and operate again very soon. And that is the reason why, as I said, we have preferred Section 10. Why do we get that confidence? Because we have been operating with the best operating parameters under the operating cost, which is comparable to the industry. And we were only affected by the non-availability of the engines by Pratt & Whitney. Had Pratt & Whitney complied with their obligations under the contract, we would not have faced this problem since last 3 years. Had Pratt & Whitney, even after not complying with the obligation under the contract, had they even complied with the arbitration award, which we were forced to go into, which was rendered on 30th of March, even if they had complied with that order, I think we would have been home and we would have been growing in our operating fleet. I hope you are aware, but I would just like to give you some short summary of what happened. So in the month of March, we applied for emergency arbitration because Pratt & Whitney was not complying with any of the contractual obligations. And finally, we got an award which was very favorable, and it also was very clear and unambiguous, asking Pratt & Whitney to provide 10 serviceable leased engines per month starting from 28th of April. And just to give you a kind of context, immediately after that, Pratt & Whitney wrote to the arbitrator that they will comply to the order in full. And that gave us a lot of confidence that yes, finally now Pratt & Whitney, which is a part of a large Raytheon group, which is a $150 billion group in US, having exposure in defense and aerospace, would now comply with the award. And that is why the promoters again committed further funds apart from what they had committed earlier. They gave another 290 crore in the last 10 days of April. And finally, when we found that in spite of the fact that Pratt & Whitney said, while we found that Pratt & Whitney was trying to find loopholes after that, we again went to the arbitrator. Arbitrator again gave a confirmation, yes, this is correct. And Pratt & Whitney should not only give 10 engines as per the past order for every month, they should also induct the 20 engines which are lying with them in their MRO for last more than 8 to 9 months. And further, they should pick up the 44 failed engines which are lying with us in India, and they also should be inducted soon. Having got this award, and that too with a clear finding that no security required from Go First, when no payments required from Go First, I think Pratt & Whitney was obliged to follow that order. And when we found that it's trying to kind of deny to abide by that, we went again and we got a fresh order, and that also was favorable. So we thought that by 20th of April, they will provide the 10 engines, and that is the reason why promoters were committed. They still are committed, and they provided 290 crores in the last 10 days. After having seen that Pratt & Whitney is trying to again defy, we had to go for the process of what we already filed, and simultaneously we also filed for the execution of the award. And US Delaware Court has admitted, and it has also issued a notice to Pratt & Whitney to comply within 3 days by Friday or reply. So I think the turn of event which has happened since 28th of April has actually pushed us to file this application. And the board of the directors of our company, after evaluating various options, have found it necessary that this Section 10 is required. Otherwise, the Pratt & Whitney issue may also affect the other events of the company, including the aircraft which are available with us. So I think that's the reason why this action has been taken. And I would be happy to explain that this whole process of Section 10 is actually a process whereby we are trying to find a resolution to see that the issues which have affected us due to Pratt and Whitney are getting resolved, and
Yes, sir.
till that time we get a kind of some relief as a moratorium, which is part of the IBC process.
Somit here, just one question that I had is, firstly, were there any other operational issues other than the Pratt and Whitney engine issues? Because given the fact that the aviation industry is going through a very strong times with high fares and strong domestic demand, why such extreme decision of just shutting the operations? Couldn't the promoters just infuse some more funds and wait for the engines to come in?
Well, I think a very relevant question which everybody perhaps would have in their mind. But I would just like to give you a little context. The Pratt and Whitney has been defying their obligations since last 3 years. It's not that, and we have been quite patient. We have been quite collaborative, cooperative with them. They were trying to represent that there are some issues with their issue, but finally we need our engines. So in the meanwhile, the promoters had to fund the liquidity gap, and promoters did at all times. And as you may be aware, promoters funded 3,200 crores in the last 24 months. And I would also be happy to note that in this process, that when we all know that Indian aviation went through very difficult times, the government of India came up with the ECLGS scheme, and we were one of the beneficiaries of that scheme, where we got a sanction of 1,500 crore, of which we already drawn 1,300 crore. So effectively, the promoters and the bank, through the government support, have infused almost 4,500, 4,600 crore in the last 24 months. So I think promoters have never defied or never denied that they would infuse further fund. But the question is, how long? I mean, whether the promoters will continue to fund the losses because the Pratt and Whitney is not giving engines. And it is not just it is a static position. The engines keep on failing. So today I have only 27 operational aircraft out of a total fleet of 55. And tomorrow, with the kind of performance issues, the further engines will fail. So if I have depleting fleet, the losses will further increase rather. And therefore, it is necessary that Pratt and Whitney provides their the engines which they are under obligation in any case. So I think matter was debated, discussed for almost 3 board meetings in the last I would say 5 days, 7 days. And finally, after taking consultation of various experts, the board decided that and evaluated various options, and they found that if we have to protect, because otherwise the lessors were also getting little impatient that what's happening, why the engines are not coming. And therefore, we decided that we should at least protect the company and we should not let the present situation falter further. That is the reason why we thought it is necessary to take this position.